We're only 58 days away from Major League Baseball's first pitch, and I am going by the Atlanta Braves March 27th date. A little biased there, but we're only 58 days away. Welcome to the 219th edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is my fabulous co-host Larry Gardner up there in Adairsville, and my fabulous producer Wayne Ridenhour in snowed in Memphis, Tennessee,
Yeah.
still a little bit. And you can catch us all at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And as always, if you like the content, click over on that like button, hover over it, and give it a good old smash. Follow us, give us a review on Apple or Spotify. We'd really appreciate it. We do this for free. We do this for fun. So join us on our ride. At JJ Get You One for my personal X, at RWY Junior for Wayne, at LG the number 4 Real Though for Larry Garner, and at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, who is out calling the Clayton State Lakers basketball game this evening. Go Lakers. Larry, how you doing this night, man?
JJ, I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. It is the last few days that I will get a chance to breathe until being occupied, if not every day, about every other day from now until the end of November with spring and fall sports season. So it's about to be a busy time up in Gardnerville, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I am ready for some baseball, my friend. How about you, Wayne? How are you doing, sir?
I'm frozen. I would say you can go outside and build a snowman, but you can't do it because it's all just like frozen little bitty tiny ice cubes that are all frozen together now. And so it's one big giant sheet of ice out there. I've tried torching the ice. I've tried digging it out with a shovel and everything else. And it's frustrating work. So, how about you, JJ? What things like over in your area?
Man, I'm doing well. We didn't get near as much ice and snow as you guys did. We got a little bit here in Lilburn. But speaking of all this cold weather, I'm doing well, but I'm ready for baseball season. That means hot weather. That means hot dogs and cold beer, baby. And that's what I'm all about. So give me some of those, but only 12 days until the Braves pitchers and catchers report for the 2026 season. And I just can't be happier. It's one of my favorite times of the year is opening day for baseball. And Larry, I can't wait to hear your voice up there in Rome, man, and all over the Atlanta area and what you do. We're proud of you here at ATL Prime Sports, man. Keep on going. What's on tap for today's show? We're going to talk a little Atlanta Hawks. Haven't talked to much this year with all the football going around and the college football heart of the world, really heart of the world of college football right here in Atlanta and College Football Hall of Fame here. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about these Hawks. They're third in the division, only 2.5 games behind, I believe, the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. They're trailing them by a half game or so. And so both Florida teams were trailing. And let's talk about these Hawks, man. They're 2 games under 500, currently just tipped off in Boston against the Celtics. A tough task there. But Larry, your assessment on these Hawks post Trae Young era?
Well, ironically, defensively, they're actually improving a lot since the trade with Trae Young. Offensively is where the issue has been. They haven't been able to score as much. And prime example of today as they're playing the Boston Celtics as we speak. So what you've gotten now is you've gotten shorter, but thank goodness the addition of two-way player Christian Coloco. The Hawks fans are loco for Coloco, who has bounced around a little bit and has made his way with Atlanta and has absolutely just been phenomenal in the 4 games that he's played in. And it's a very obvious point that the Hawks just needed some size. And bringing his 7-foot frame in with the energy and the intensity that he's got is exactly what the doctor ordered with the absence of Kristaps Porzingis. And the headlines today and many in the Atlanta area we've been going back and forth on social media about today is the superstar from Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo, making it known that he wants to be traded either by the trade deadline next week or by off season. And it has got Hawks fans in a tizzy because are they willing to give up Jalen Johnson and the coveted New Orleans Pelicans pick in a potential trade for a 31-year-old Giannis who is starting to have a lot of soft tissue injuries, but would easily be the top 3 player in the league. And it's got Atlanta going nuts. And, oh, you should have held on to Trae Young. You should have did this and you should have did that. Well, JJ, Wayne, after listening to the comments from General Manager Ansel Sala today on the Steakhouse, courtesy of 92.9 The Game, I don't think you're going to be excited about Hawks basketball anytime soon because it sounds like he wants to play the long game, which means he's going to try to draft young, build and develop, and go the route of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
The problem with that is Oklahoma City has about 30 draft picks between now and 2031. Atlanta has not been successful in any lottery pick that they've had since the Trae Young era, whether you want to talk about DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, who were number 4 and number 10 respectively in that draft, or if you want to talk about the latter ones of Zachary Risachet, who was number 1 overall but still in the development stage. Atlanta just has not had luck when it comes to lottery draft picks in the last few seasons. And unfortunately, until you get that problem right, the issues that you got, even with the emergence of Dyson Daniels, the emergence of Jalen Johnson, the contributions and the emergence of what Onyeka Okongwu's been able to do from the three-point line, all that's all well and good, but until you get some size that's going to be able to rebound, you're still looking at a play-in team. And I think the Atlanta fans are just gorged out on play-in after play-in after play-in, JJ.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a lot of mediocrity as a Hawks fan. These fans blindly go out, they support. You see it in the stands. They want something to hang their hat on. They love Trae Young. It was tough to see Trae Young go, as you and I mentioned, a real superstar, arguably one of the biggest talents the Hawks have ever drafted. So, yeah, I think this fan base just wants a little bit more. As you mentioned, NBA play-in after NBA play-in, first-round exit or no playoffs at all since that NBA Eastern Conference Finals run, which had everybody going, oh, wow, Trae's better than Luka. They won the trade, this and that. And now here we are. So no more Trae Young. Now it's Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels and company. And, they could score, as we mentioned. They're not scoring as much at a clip right now. But it's an intriguing organization because they are building it. And they have this model that the NBA champions, current NBA champions, they put this model out there, and Atlanta is going to try and follow it. And I think that is the most reachable thing for an Atlanta team to do that's been mediocre for pretty much my entire life, except for 2 Eastern Conference final runs. And here we are. We're looking, feeling good, but I think holding on to that Pelicans pick is huge because it will be it could be a number 1 overall. And you keep on getting these guys and you keep on you're going to hit on one eventually. It's going to hit on one. You're going to hit your SGA. You're going to hit your guy that's going to change the franchise. And I truly believe that's the way to go. Because unless you can get Giannis paired with Trae Young, which is no longer possible, or maybe you get Giannis in here and he fits, but you mentioned it, Larry, the soft tissue issues are starting to become prominent. When the guy's 7 foot tall and as athletic as Giannis is, those injuries are going to happen if he's playing 60 games.
All right.
So I think we have. Yes, we do. Our guest, Brice Lewis, joins us talking about the Atlanta Hawks. And, Brice, good to meet you. I'm JJ. That's our producer, Wayne. And Larry, thanks for coming on, man. And we're in the middle of talking about these Hawks. I'm talking about how they can get out of this impeccable run of mediocrity. And I think the the writing on the wall is the former NBA champions. Just bringing you in and recapping what we're talking about here are the current NBA champions. I think that is the model, and Atlanta is trying to chase that and stockpile picks, stockpile talent, and something is bound to come. But Brice, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and welcome to ATL Prime Sports, man.
Hey, glad to be here. Sorry I'm a little late. I had to try to finish
Don't
up
worry
the
about
beginning, but we are here. Like I said, I appreciate you guys letting me on. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, I'm out there, I guess, a little bit in the Hawk space a little bit. I have a podcast called Believe in Hawks, BLEAV, for the Believe Podcast Network, where I've been covering the team on the network for about, this is my third season. So, on the network, but I've been covering the Hawks since like 2020. In general. And then I also do some Falcons content as well. I actually just posted a video today, just talking about what's happening over there as well. So I'm kind of, fast, in the Atlanta sports market, like, both Falcons and Hawks and things of that nature. So, just, and I feel like, I just try to interact. I have a passion for sports. It's something I want to get into full time at some point. But, I just like being in the space and being a part of whenever I can go to media events or, interact with, players or be just, like I said, in the spaces of sports media and things of that nature. So I've had some experiences with that. And yeah, so like I said, man, I try to do what I can. Like I said, but my free time, keep it with the Hawks, keep it with the Falcons. Right now, this is peak Hawk season for me. So we're watching every game we can and trying to break down what's going on. And obviously trade deadline's coming up too. So that's a big day for all 30 teams in the league.
Absolutely. You can catch Brice on X at Bricey_2K. That's BRICEY_2K. All right, so I'll kick it off, man. We were just talking about the post-Trae Young era. Did the Hawks win this trade? Did the Hawks lose this trade? And what do you think for the future, man? And kind of just bringing in what we just talked about.
So my thoughts on the Trae Young trade was obviously it's sad just because of what Trae's meant to the city. He's obviously done a lot for Atlanta. He embraced the city when people always talk about, what the players don't embrace Atlanta. They don't love Atlanta. They don't come to Atlanta. When Trae got here, he immediately was like, I'm all about Atlanta. And especially a guy from him coming from Oklahoma. So it's not like he was coming from a place that's like just like Atlanta. And, I think that, and I said he was kind of important for the Hawks because they needed that star, that they can market out there and that people can say, this is a player I'm following as I develop my fandom for this team. So, when they made the trade, I understood it. They felt like from what they saw without him that they were playing the way that they wanted to play. They found success playing that way. You had Jalen Johnson emerge. Obviously, it was always something people were discussing because it seemed like through the years, Jalen seemed like, hey, how good could this guy be? How good what level could he get to? And, I think this year, obviously, looks like he'll probably be an all-star, I would expect, this year for the first time in his career. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, big reason why he's here is because of Trae, but he's, exploded into a 20-point-a-game score after being a single-digit scorer the majority of his career. And obviously, we know what he can do defensively. And obviously, some of the young guys they've kept around, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Shea, Yaka Okongwu as well. And I feel like they just said, all right, I think we've shown that we can build something without Trae. I also think they didn't want to pay Trae. I think the front office was just like, in today's league with the CBA, it's risky to tie up money in a player that you may not be 100% convinced fits what you want to do. I think fit is so important in today's game more than it's ever been. And you would think, of course you want players to fit your team, but I feel like I always like to say this. I feel like the Big Three era when LeBron started, it kind of messed up that because you started seeing teams just throwing stars together and saying, all right, well, we have top end talent. So if they play well, we'll probably beat the majority of the teams and then we'll see what happens. Where now with the way the CBA is constructed and how things are gone, you really have to make sure every player fits what you're trying to do, because if not, it'll stick out like a sore thumb because every other team has a good fit. So now it's like, I think that fit with Trae, they realized was like, I think we can move on from him, and I don't know if he still fits what we want to do. He's more of a pick and roll guy. Quinn's more of a spacing, cutting guy, and so that also clashed a little bit too. So I think in terms of the return, I think they got two guys they feel like fit what they're trying to do. CJ obviously is like what they used to like I call like old school score. When a guy who will kind of be a microwave, can heat up, start lighting you up, but can also dribble the air out of the ball sometimes. Because that's they came from that ISO era where that was really big, and he's had to adapt, and he's been playing better as of late. And then Corey Kispert, who I think they're looking at as a replacement for Luke Kennard because he was on an expiring deal anyway. So I think, honestly, for what they did, they maintained flexibility, didn't give up any draft capital. They obviously want to obtain more draft capital. So I think in terms of their mission and the goal and the vision, it fit what they wanted to do. And I felt like that the two additions are going to be good fits for the team. And I think, it's just obviously like any team, when you bring players on, you just have to wait for them to get used to it, develop, get chemistry, get reps with the teammates, and kind of see how that works out. So obviously, yeah, tough losing Trey, but I think they felt like this was best for them. And then obviously I'm believing in the vision that Auncey's trying to, show the Atlanta Hawks fan base, and trying to continue to build that out as we get through this season. And then, like I said, that Pelicans pick that they have now becomes very big because I think they view that as a very important part of their future.
Huge pick. And now I do the same thing. When you start talking about Hawks, I start talking about Falcons. They're all birds. Larry, go ahead, man.
Yeah, you're good, man, Brice. So you mentioned the trade deadline coming up here pretty soon, and we've seen several rumors circulating around the Hawks, but we heard General Manager Andre Sala talk a little bit today about how they were really going to try to work the process, trust the process, and kind of go on a long-term goal of drafting young players, developing them, and trying to go along the timeline of their young trio of Jalen Johnson, Zachary Risache, and of course Onyeka Okongwu, who are all coming above age and whatnot. The glaring need because of Kristaps Porzingis' unavailability has been size. Do you think the Hawks address that in the trade deadline, or do you think they stand back and just allow Christian Koloko to do what he's done over the last few games?
I think it's an interesting situation. I think they like their bigs. I just think it's a stylistic thing with their bigs. Like, I like Newell, but he shouldn't be playing center right now. He's just not a center right now. He's a 4. And when KP's not on the floor and before Koloko, they had to kind of play him at that spot. And that wasn't ideal for him. And then same thing with Okongwu. He can play center, but like, you'd rather it be in like spot situations, not, okay, you're going to play 35 minutes at center. I think they'd rather use him in the way they used him when they were healthy at the beginning of the season 4 and 5. And so I think they're open to it. I just think they're not going to do something absurd. Obviously, we heard about the Anthony Davis rumors. That sailed. We know about Giannis. I don't see that happening either. So I think in terms of bigs, they're out there. It just really depends on if it's a good fit for them and what it costs. They obviously have some expiring deals. KP would be who you would assume they'd move in a trade. And then you'd have to see if a team's willing to take that on, knowing that, okay, he probably, we don't know how many more games he's going to play this season, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's something that I think they'll look into. If they can find it, great. If not, I think they just kind of ride it with KP when he gets back, and you kind of are in a much healthier situation with Koloko kind of emerging a little bit, because now it's like, okay, KP comes back. We have another center with size. So if he comes out, it's not like, okay, now our size is gone. You can pair him with the front court, because if you've noticed in these Hawks games, Quinn's done a good job of, like, he likes to pair Jalen with Koloko. He likes to pair Okongwu with Gay, because those have been successful defensive lineups for them on the court in terms of the front court. And then, if you have injuries at the 4, then that may be a time where you see Newell come back, because then that's more of a play position they probably want him to play at right now. So, it'll be interesting to see, like I said, if they find a move. I don't know if they're going to be aggressive, but I think they'll look, and obviously they're willing to also take on some salary, I'm sure. So if maybe they could get a guy who would fit what they want to do, they may be like, okay, we'll make this move. We get maybe KP off the books, which should free up some money. And then, you probably feel like, okay, we feel pretty good about our front court moving into the future, because they understand what this season is for them right now.
You're listening to ATL Prime Sports. Right now, we have Brice Lewis, Hawks podcast host for Believe in Hawks. And you can catch him again on X at Brice_2K. Hawks started out scoring at a clip, top 10 offense in the league, bottom scoring defense in the league. At the end of this year, Hawks, they don't get in that play-in range. They don't do very well in the postseason. Is Coach Quinn's job in jeopardy? Is this front office going to move on from Coach Quinn, or are they going to stand pat for at least one more season with Coach Quinn? There's some rumblings there because you mentioned Trae Young and his style of play didn't mix. Now he's gone. Does that mean Coach Quinn is safe?
That was obviously one of the first things I thought about when Trae was traded. Like, how does this impact Quinn? I think also at that time, obviously that's when the Hawks were going through a losing streak. Vibes were not high. It felt like there were a lot of things that were happening that was like, all right, could this lead to this? Because remember, Ansi did not bring Quinn in. That was Landry Fields. So I think, though, through what I see, it seems like Quinn and Ansi have a pretty good relationship and a vision about this team. I think the fact that Ansi came out and said, well, Trae didn't fit what we were doing anymore, that, in terms of what they're doing, was implemented by Quinn. And so I would assume with what you're doing, I don't think they're going to move off Quinn. I think Quinn will get one more year. But again, it just depends on how they view their outlook, because I think you're trying to build something with him right now. So you don't want to be like, okay, we just moved on from Trae. Now he has half a year. And then if he doesn't, I don't know what the expectation would be, but doesn't do anything crazy, now all of a sudden he's gone. The fact that, like I said, that pick is something that they're really hoping probably is a top 3, and especially in this draft class.
Looking like it.
I think they want Quinn around for that, and for him to just, whoever they take, implement him in with who they have, with the system they have, the culture they have. Because I think there's been some good things Quinn's done since he's been here. I mean, he has developed players since he's been here. It's been kind of a weird situation because it feels like he's done a good job of helping guys get better, and you've seen that. But then there's also been some roster construction issues. So it's like guys are getting better, but it's not resulting in more wins, and so you're trying to figure out what's going on. And I think when that stretch happened without Trae, it was like, okay, we're winning games. We're playing the way he wants. We're seeing some good results. So now I think, obviously KP was expected to be a big part of that. Probably plays a reason to why they are where they are right now. So they've definitely caught some unlucky breaks during his tenure, but I don't think that the Hawks are going to move off of Quinn after this season, unless if the Hawks continue to free fall and then they were like,
correct,
one of the worst teams in the league, then I'm sure it'd be like, maybe we do need to. But I think playing in playoffs, I think they're probably looking at that as that's just a good experience, especially a playoff series, a good experience for guys like Jalen, Zach, Dyson in this role, and Kongu has experience. But guys like that to just play in that level of competition, because that'll help them move forward. Because essentially, again, the Hawks are not a normal. If they got the first pick in the draft, they're not a normal number 1 overall team. They're getting that pick and then expecting to be a playoff team next year, probably. So it's not one of those situations where like this is a whole scale rebuild. So if you're one of these guys in the draft, the Hawks are not a bad situation, because at least you're not going into like oh man, I may have to win like 18 games next year and just hope to continue to build this thing. It's like, no, you might be on a winning team as soon as you get in the league.
You're listening to Brice Lewis right here on ATL Prime Sports. Brice is a Hawks podcast host for Believe in Hawks and Falcons as well. And you can check him out on X at Brice_2K. Larry, go ahead, man.
Yeah, man, Brice. So KP's on an expiring deal. CJ's on an expiring deal. You got Kennard's on an expiring deal. So you got all of this money that you're trying to accumulate.
Mm.
Even if you do take on a salary in a trade, there aren't really quote-unquote marquee free agents to pick from to make your roster better immediately. So in your thoughts, or even in your own words, what good does it do to have a super young team, a whole lot of money, and not a whole bunch of assets?
I mean, for me, I think it just kind of shows like kind of where the league is. I think you have the money and the flexibility because in case there's that key player that you need to add to your team, I think you want to be able to acquire like Oklahoma City. They knew after the year before they won the championship, okay, we have a big hole at center. Outside of Chet, who's skinny, we don't have a big. Well, what they do, they had money, they had flexibility because they have a lot of guys on a lot of good contracts. Boom, we could get Isaiah Hartenstein. That was big for them. I think the Hawks are viewing this kind of like we want to add guys who fit what we do and think we can enhance and improve what we're trying to be, but at the same time have the flexibility to always do that and not put ourselves in a position where, as you've seen in this league, if you're in the second apron or even the first, it limits what you can do. It limits how you can upgrade your team. And so if you have issues and holes, it's like, we really can't do a lot. Where I think with the Oklahoma City model, they've always had the flexibility. Like, that's why legitimately if Oklahoma City wanted to get a star player, they could. Because it's like, we got a bunch of good players. We got some salary. All right. You know? And so I think that's what they're trying to do. You want to try to find guys on good deals. And then, like I said, you look at this team and think, okay, KP ain't work out. I say one of the big things they're going to have to address is center clearly this offseason, which they probably won't address in the draft because I don't see a player that's a center that is going to be that highly rated if they get maybe a top 5, top 6 pick. So that's something where, hey, we have money where if there's a decent, good center that fits our vision and what we want to do, we can acquire that in free agency. And now that asset of a pick, we can go make it be a wing or a guard. And now you've essentially upgraded the team through a potentially co-franchise star player in the draft if that everything works out. And then on top of that, you've addressed a major hole in your team. And so you basically are trying to formulate a team with as few amount of holes as you can. So that way it's like if you have a good culture in place, you play hard defensively, you have the system. Because Quinn, since the Hawks have been here, has always been a top 10, top 8 offensive team. You're probably like, okay, yeah, we can win. You just have to diagnose who's at the top of that, which is probably Jalen, and then you're probably hoping. Obviously, I don't know if you want to expect your draft pick to be the number one guy, but at least a guy who you're like he'll be a part of that core in the future, and then you just hope for guys to develop along the way, and then after that you'll be able to create yourself a sustainable winner because that's the biggest thing you want to do in today's CBA: sustainable winning. If you can sustain a winner, you're in good shape because the CBA sometimes when you go all in with money, you got 2-3 years, and if you don't win, you got to blow it up, and we've seen that. We're seeing it with Milwaukee. We saw it with Phoenix, and you got to be able to kind of adjust on the fly. But having the flexibility that the Hawks have is definitely a big plus.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what
my.
this. Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead. You take it. I told you to take the next one.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, you're good because you lead me right into my next question, which is if you draft high, and this is just me as being an NBA fan and have been watching basketball for as long as I can remember. If I'm drafting somebody in the top 5, I expect them to make an immediate impact. I don't draft somebody with one of my first top 5 draft picks and want to watch them sit up under somebody on the bench and get groomed so that they can be good or play a lot of minutes in College Park. If I'm drafting you top 5, I expect you to be an immediate 15 points a game or better scorer off the jump. And we have a number 1 pick that has really been the Dow Jones and Zachary Ricochet. And I'm not even talking about his injuries, just he is going to forever be compared to Alex Sarr and what Sarr is doing in Washington because of the draft positions they were drafted in. It's going to be very similar to Trey and Luka. But why should I not expect Zachary to do what number 1 picks do?
Listen, people have always talked about the Zach thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I just look at it from a realistic basketball sense. A lot of people are going to look at, okay, your pick and what you are. But you also have to look at what is the draft class. If the scouts tell you, hey, there isn't that guy in this draft, then you know you're going to be selecting a player probably a little bit higher that may not be that guy. Obviously you can draft a guy at any pick in the draft that they could end up giving you instant impact potentially. But, I think in Zach's case, it's such a weird situation because it seems like Sarr didn't want to be in Atlanta. He didn't want to play the 5. He didn't want to have that. And with the Hawks, when you're trying to build something, you need everybody to buy in, right? You cannot have a guy who's like, because then now you don't know how that's going to impact, development and everything like that.
Locker room, yeah.
Where I think with Zach, I think realistically, we knew he was not going to be instant star player. I just think because he was the number 1 pick, it's like, oh yeah, he needs to be that. And remember, at the beginning of his rookie year, he wasn't even starting. It was DeAndre Hunter. But it's like, you have to think about it. Like, it's not like, I don't know y'all's opinions on DeAndre Hunter, but like, it's not like DeAndre Hunter was just like terrible player, So it's not like you have like, well, we got like a backup who's starting for us. Like, no, DeAndre Hunter's probably a starting level player in this league. So
great defensively too.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where when you drafted him, it wasn't like, wow, we have an easy, obvious starting job for him, And I think they obviously knew he was 19, he's skinny, they needed him to develop. And they knew, like, hey, it's going to take him some time. And Zachary even said it's going to take him some time because he's like, dude, like, you're coming from those other countries playing. You're the best player by far. And then you get to the league and you're like, oh, crap. This isn't, what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if Zachary went to college basketball in the States, how that would have changed his impact or changed his outlook on the game. But, like I said, I get why people feel that way because he was the number 1 pick. I just say, listen, I knew what the draft was. I mean, if you realistically think about it, outside of maybe Sarr, I mean, Reed Shepherd just really started playing this year too. And people said that was the Hawks' second choice. Like, he just started playing for Houston this year because Houston was not the typical bad team. They were like, oh, we're going to be good. So, I think, obviously, I understand people want more from him. Obviously, we want more consistency from him. It sucks that he's hurt right now, but hopefully he can get back on track. But I think at the end of the day, you do have to kind of view this from listen, he's only 20. This is not, you would assume, is not the peak of the player he is. And if he fits what you want to do systematically and culturally, then you have to stick and believe in that vision with him overall, even if it's not 15, 16. Because remember, last year we saw performances where he would, I was like the Cleveland game when we were in prime time, that he would he was 100% from the field, 21 points. Like, you're like, this is what I would love to see from my number 1 pick. It's just, is that a microcosm? Is that who he is? Maybe not, but can he get close to that? So I think, for me, it's just one of those things where, like, literally if Ricochet probably came out in this next draft, he probably, maybe top 10, top 15 player? And that kind of just tells you the drafts are different year by year.
Well, Brice, brings we talk about size, need some size, talk about that pick. I kind of want to talk about some bloodlines. Carlos Boozer's son, Cameron, sitting there in Cameron Indoor Stadium right now. I don't know if the name is coincides or what, but Boozer looks pretty good. One of the leading scorers in the country in college basketball. I like this guy. I'd love to see him in a Hawks uniform. Your thoughts on Cameron Boozer?
Cameron is, listen, I think he's the leading scorer in college basketball, if not top 2.
He is. Top 3, somewhere in there.
I just watched the Duke game the other night. Really impressive game from him. He's an interesting guy because this honestly, top 3 is fascinating to me because of if the Hawks were in position to take all 3, because you could see what he brings. I feel like his floor may be his dad, which, his dad was a very consistent starting level guy for years. But obviously in this new age of NBA, he has more range, already shooting threes, things like that. I like him a lot. My big thing is, again, in the Hawks situation, if you take him, how does that fit work? That would probably, if you're expecting him to start, you'd have to move Jalen to the 3. I don't think you want him playing center. I don't think he's the center. So you'd have to move him to the 3. And so it'd be one of those things where if you just believe he's the best player out of the 3 of them and you have to have him, then you try to make it work. and because I think he has a lot of good skills that he brings to the game. Obviously, you see what he is offensively. I like to see how his defense translates in the NBA and how he does against NBA level offensive players. But overall, I think I guess if I had to give him a worse floor, would be like maybe a peak Michael Beasley, who could still get you a bucket, but wasn't a defender.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be that bad defensively, but like if I just had to give you a lower-ish floor, so I think his offense is going to translate, and I think that would be big. And I think, my question for him would be, do I think he's a number one option? I think he's a top 3 option. I don't know if he's a number 1. He may be a number 2, number 3. It just literally depends on his development and what the expectation is.
It's unbelievable to watch him play at Duke, man. He looks just like his dad. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Larry, Wayne, if you guys have any final questions for Brice, go ahead and get them in, and then we'll wrap and get out of here.
No, man, I'm just hoping that the Grizzlies and the Tigers stay above 250 towards the ends of the season. Things ain't going the way it normally does here in Memphis.
Well, Brice, I appreciate you coming on, man. For our listeners looking to find Brice, again, Bricey_2K on X. He's the host for Believe in Hawks on the Hawks Podcast Network. And Brice, we'll have to have you back on, man. Thanks for jumping on, and don't worry about being late, man. It happens.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, let me come on and talk some Hawks basketball with y'all.
Absolutely, guys. Go, ladies and gentlemen, go find Brice Lewis on X, again, at Bricey_2K. Enjoyed talking with you, man. Have a great week.
You too, man.
Appreciate it. Guys, we'll move on from the NBA to the NFL. We'll do a little roundtable discussion, guys. The Browns have hired a head coach. Bill Belichick was left off the 2026 Hall of Fame class, and the Super Bowl is just a week away. Let's go around the NFL. Guys, Todd Monken, former Georgia offensive coordinator, getting the job in Cleveland. Larry, your thoughts on that real quick?
Man, it tells me Cleveland is even more of a dumpster fire than we thought they were. You got your head coach, your potential head coach and your defensive coordinator, and Jim Schwartz is already on the team. The players like him. But you go and hire Todd Monken, who had a multiple MVP quarterback that he admittedly did not talk to. And it's not the first time that he did that. He had a 2-time national championship quarterback on the roster with the Georgia Bulldogs that he admittedly did not talk to. And you're going to take him to arguably the most lightning rod quarterback situation in the NFL between Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and a potential Deshaun Watson. I don't really understand the logic behind it, but hey, good for Todd. Those jobs are not easy to come by, and it'll be his opportunity to be able to prove and see if he is head coach material in the NFL. But man, he has got a tough road to sled in the environment that he's in.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. You mentioned the lack of communication between quarterback and offensive coordinator. Great offensive mind, been around the game. But another thing I question, I didn't know if this guy wanted to be a head coach. And he'd only been a head coach once before at Southern Mississippi for a couple seasons. Didn't tear the cover off the football, for a baseball terminology. Didn't light it on fire up there in Southern Miss. So only there, but he's been around all the NFL. I mean, he's been with the Buccaneers, the Browns, back with the Browns now as a head coach, Baltimore, OC, obviously UGA, Oklahoma State, and Eastern Michigan. And he turns 60 next month. I saw a meme online from Barstool Sports. It was like the Browns helmet, and it was like their coaching search, and it would move, and everybody would move away from the helmet. So I don't quite know what the search came down to, but man, it seems like this one. I don't know if it was their number one guy. I would love to have seen their list and followed that Browns job more closely. But with the hire, it leaves only two openings left, which is Las Vegas and Arizona. And look, I think Todd Monken's a great offensive mind, but I'm like you, Larry. I'm questioning him as a CEO type guy that can run a whole thing, but it is the NFL. It's a little bit easier to run than a college organization. I think, if your offensive mind works well enough, what are you going to do at quarterback? Deshaun Watson still is on the roster, so I don't know if he can turn it around this late in his career after the injuries, but you do have Deshaun Watson. You do have Myles Garrett, so you have some pieces to hang your hat on. But yeah, this was a head-scratching hire. I kind of thought they'd go with the young, hot hand, but it seemed like a lot of people, again, pulled their names out of the hat because they just didn't want to deal with all the quarterback commotion. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, K-Fan, as we're calling him now here in Atlanta, 12 quarterbacks, Larry. So, yeah, Todd Monken is walking into a hot situation. Wayne, your thoughts, man, on Todd Monken getting this job?
Well, it'll be a lot colder environment than what he's used to up there in Cleveland. Cleveland fans, I don't know. Who do you think suffered more, Cleveland fans or the Atlanta Falcons fans?
That's a toss-up. But, I mean, look, Cleveland's made the playoffs twice in the last 8 years. Atlanta hasn't made it. So,
No.
I don't know.
There is that.
I mean, I don't know. Larry, guys, who do you think might fill out these last two jobs in Arizona and Las Vegas? Larry, give your 2 cents, man. We're just having fun with this NFL topic. And the next one I'm really curious to get into, this Bill Belichick thing, because this is juicy, guys. But Larry, go ahead, a couple 2 cents on the opening coaching jobs and anything else you want to throw in there, guys. Let's just have a round table, have some fun with this thing.
No, absolutely, man. It's fun to see that one of my favorite coaches in the last 20 years getting a shot at an in-person interview in Arizona, and Ron Rivera. I've followed his career ever since he was on the historic 85 Bears or the Chicago Bears for many, many years, but everybody remembers the 85 Bears team. But through his coaching ranks there and, of course, in Carolina, and then, of course, what he was able to do in Washington before an abrupt exit. He is a great football mind and a good leader of men. I was glad to see that he was getting an in-person interview there at Arizona. Also heard that Raheem is actually getting an in-person. The former Falcons coach getting an in-person interview there in Arizona as well. So a lot there, but there's so many different people getting interviews for the Raiders jobs, and not too many people wanting to take a second interview, which is eyebrow raising to me because they have the most cap money available. They have the number one pick available, but yet the historic Raiders franchise doesn't warrant any attention whatsoever. That raises some red flags for me. Also, it was interesting for me to be able to see that the New York Football Jets reached out to one former Super Bowl winning coach, John Gruden, to see if he'd be willing to join the Jet staff and Coach Aaron Glenn's staff as the offensive coordinator, but Coach Gruden said, I respectfully decline, and maybe he starts getting some traction back into getting some interviews and maybe getting back into the NFL as a head coach again. Who knows? But, man, there's so many different things going on, and to see Joe Brady at Buffalo, oh,
yes,
my goodness. I don't know how to put this other than the way my brain takes it. And for those of you who are listening and watching, when you do see this, please charge it to my head and not my heart. But your owner and your general manager sit at a press conference and told the entire fan base that we didn't want to go with the coaches and we didn't want to go with their decision. But then you hired the offensive coordinator that was a coach on that coach's staff that you just vehemently just said that you didn't agree with. Please make it make sense.
I was going to say, look, I don't think it's a bad hire either, Larry. I think we're on the same boat there, but it's just wait, you just bashed your whole entire organization, coaching staff from pretty much top to bottom. But we're going to hire with Ed. Let's run it back.
Yeah. Well, with all these coaching changes in the NFL and everything, it's beginning to look like the person who made the smartest move may have been Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, just go to Ohio State.
That's a smart move.
It really is. I think
look, there's lots of talent there. And look, I don't know how good of a recruiter he's going to be, but if Ryan Day takes care of the recruiting, You put that offense with a good quarterback, that thing will move the football in college, man. I like Arthur Smith's offense here in Atlanta. I'm just one of the few, and I said this on the show. I would have loved to have seen Arthur Smith with Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix for a year. That's all. I'll leave it at that. But yes, 2 more openings left to fill. What a crazy coaching carousel period it's been. 1 week till Super Bowl week. We'll do the pick 6 next week, guys. We'll get the standings before our final thoughts. But, guys, this is the juiciest topic. Thoughts on Bill Belichick not getting in the Hall of Fame. And I'll tee this one off because this one is crazy. Look, I'll do the 6-7 motion because I am torn on this because I think the politics involved kind of says something. Hey, maybe 2007 Spygate meant a little bit more to his career than we thought. And I think there's other people in the NFL that believe that. Do I think he should have gotten in? Yeah. I mean, 6 Super Bowls tell me he should have gotten in, played for 8 of them or whatever it was. Yeah, I think he should have gotten in, but it tells me that those 2 incidents, Deflategate and Spygate, rub people the wrong way, especially Bill Polian. And so I think the politics of this is kind of we're going to give him a 1-year probationary period. And now you start to go, are they going to do this to Sir Tom Brady when he's up for the Hall of Fame? Are they going to say, hey, that was a big advantage for you, even though he beat him like 41-10 in the Deflategate game? But, it's just going to be interesting, and I can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. Again, I do believe, I will say this, I do believe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and he should have gotten in. But something tells me in there that these owners, these coaches, these players, and these writers who are voting for this stuff tells me there's a grudge to be had, and they held it. Larry, your thoughts?
No, they're going to continue to hold it because they don't like anything that the Patriots dynasty stood for the better part, and it almost pains me to say this, but for the better part of almost 20 years. And you think about this, 20 years, 8 Super Bowls, you win 6 of them. It is the best record in NFL history. Regardless of what you think, regardless of what you feel like with Spygate, Deflategate, and any other kind of gate, the man has the pedigree and he's got the record that before yesterday would have easily gotten him in. So what this tells me is that you can be playing video game type numbers on easy level and break and shatter every record known to man. And if anybody on the voting committee has an agenda against you or a personal vendetta against you, they will hinder what should rightfully be yours, which then tells me that there are people who don't deserve to be voters. And it's unfortunate because the message you're sending is for anybody after the fact that no matter how great or stellar of a career that you have, we get to determine whether you go in or not. Almost like, you know how it is on Remember the Titans when Coach Yost is getting ready to go into the Hall of Fame and they say, well, don't worry about anything. We'll take care of it. And they pay the refs off to try to make them lose. And Coach Yost meets him and says, look, you better call this game right or I'll take it to the papers. I don't care if I go down with you. But before God, I swear I'll see every one of y'all go down with me. That we need them kind of people that'll step up and be heard, because nobody's going to know who the voters were who said that Bill Belichick didn't deserve the honor. They're going to be cowards. They're going to hide behind a whole bunch of office tweets and everything else, and become Twitter thumb warriors and everything else. It's sad. It's a precedent that I thought I'd never see. But if Bill don't get in on the first ballot, nobody ever deserves to ever walk in the Hall again. Period. Point blank.
Well,
yeah. It's crazy to me that he didn't get in. Wayne, your thoughts, man. I can't wait to hear this one.
Well, yeah, all I can say is it feels a lot like a Pete Rose situation.
That's a very good analogy. Very good comparison, because It does kind of feel like that. And the way these owners and Bill Polian has said 50 different things already. Oh, I forgot who I voted for. Oh, blah, blah, blah. He said it all. Basically, he's saying, I didn't vote for him. Basically his body language and what he's saying is saying that. So very intriguing on this voting. Very intriguing that he didn't get in as one of the second or third winningest coach in football history. We mentioned the Super Bowls. We mentioned what he did with player development. Brewski, Gronk, all these guys, RIP Aaron Hernandez, but the talent that he saw and the players that he drafted, it's like they all hit. I mean, let me get a guy out of Kent State that played quarterback, or Julian Edelman, I think it was Kent State or wherever the heck he went to school, and he just comes in, and Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, decent wide receiver, comes and puts up absolute video game numbers. Then he gets the one cheat code he ever got and damn near went undefeated in a Super Bowl. So it's just crazy that he didn't get in. Guys, our final NFL topic, we'll get our thoughts on the AFC NFC Championship weekend and the upcoming Super Bowl. Real quick, guys, couple great games. One in a snowed-in fashion in Denver, the other in Seattle, and a trifecta of games 2 weeks in a row with the NFC West, with the 49ers, Seahawks, and the Rams and the Seahawks. They each played each other 3 times. And then, guys, I'll get your decisions. The AFC Championship game, obviously 10-7, highlighted by a Jared Stidham fumble and the lack of a decision to take points. And it comes back to say, I think these guys chase points too many times. Sean Payton, 4th and 1, would have been about a 30-something, 40-something yard field goal with Georgia State alum Will Lutz, who's been really good. Sean Payton traded for the guy to get from New Orleans to Denver to have his kicker, and he didn't use him. And it cost him the game, and I think Denver was the better team. And that's just something that is going to head scratch your eyes. But a lot of people are talking, and these are just random thoughts. I'm putting them all together. But the Patriots, their run to the Super Bowl, a lot of people are calling it one of the easiest runs ever. I don't think anything in the NFL is easy, but boy, it kind of seems like it. So just my random thoughts on the whole thing. But Sam Darnold, 2 14-win seasons in a row. Boy, he's really put his stamp on the league. It's just an overall great weekend of football last week, and unfortunately, we're dwindling down to one final game in Super Bowl 60. Can you believe that, guys? We're all up here. Super Bowl 60, man. I can't believe we're that high. I remember when it was in the damn 20s and stuff, and I don't even want to talk about you guys, but it's just incredible. We're at Super Bowl 60 here. Larry, your thoughts on the AFC, NFC games and the Super Bowl coming up, and Wayne, we'll get to you, and then we'll get our final thoughts, guys.
Yeah, sometimes you can out-coach yourself, and you can be smarter than the analytics. I don't care what situation or circumstance you're in. And we saw it in both championship games. We saw the Rams miss out on the opportunity to take some points. We saw what you've already mentioned with Sean Payton, and nobody had the forecast to know that a snowstorm was going to blow in and turn the field slap white to where you couldn't throw the football anymore, and it was really going to be 1950s NFL, AFL type football being played. But sometimes you got a backup quarterback. You got to take the points. You got to just take the points, and I'm sure that he'll be thinking about it. And the unfortunate circumstances about it is that he made the call, but he fired his offensive coordinator, and Mr. Lombardi had to take the scapegoat because his head coach, Mr. Payton, wanted to second guess himself. And I hate that it comes down to that sometimes, but it is what it is when you're dealing with people who think they're the masterminds and are smarter than everybody else. I got to give Matthew Stafford his flowers. Him and Puka Nacua did everything that they could potentially do to try to win that game for the Rams, but credit not only to Sam Darnold, but the Seattle defense, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba, who absolutely just played his heart out. Give credit to Cooper Kupp, the former LA Ram receiver who is now with the Seattle Seahawks, who showed up and showed out in a very influential way, and saw how emotional it was once they won, and how he, before he even spoke to any of his Seattle teammates, he went and hugged and dapped up and embraced several of his old former Rams teammates. You know, that relationship is very real. And to see the conversation that he and Puka had as everything was unveiling itself was, that's kind of like brothers. It was just a real good. I mean, the whole playoffs up until this point. I mean, almost every game except maybe one was decided in the last quarter or overtime. Several 4 points or less final scores. It has been intriguing. It has been nail biting, and even in the loss, the throw Caleb Williams made in the end zone as time was getting ready to run out in the fourth quarter was just magical. It's the things that NFL films are made out of. So it's been one of the most entertaining and drama-filled NFL playoffs in a long, long time. I can't wait to see the rematch of the Patriots and the Seahawks in Super Bowl 60. And yes, I was one of the ones like Wayne who can remember. I can't remember the single-digit Super Bowls, but I can remember some of the teams and moving forward. So,
yeah, well, these two teams that they got playing in the Super Bowl, I really don't care for either one of them. And so, when we do the Super Bowl wrap-up show, y'all may have to check in with me on which commercials were best, because that's probably what I'll be paying more attention to.
That is one of the most fun parts about the Super Bowl is the commercial, and the first commercial, and the crazy bets that come with it. I just absolutely love the Super Bowl. It's so funny. I've loved seeing all the memes. I got the Spider-Man. I shared it on my Facebook page. The Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man for all you older guys like myself and Larry. He pulls it out, and it's like all these Chiefs fans are dusting off their jerseys with the Patriots fans for 7 years. And so it's like oh, and one meme was I forget what it was, but it was like the Homer Simpson meme.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, for 7 years I'm a Chiefs, and he's slowly backing into the bushes and comes out in another Patriots jersey. So I've been enjoying those. But yeah, it is fun to see Drake May, a young quarterback, athletic family, another May on a big time main stage. His brother won a national championship with the Tar Heels in basketball, or at least played for one. And it's just going to be one heck of a matchup in Super Bowl 60, and I cannot wait to see what goes down in Santa Clara, California, guys. Well, let's get to our final thoughts, Larry. Well, before that, let's get to our Pick Six standings. We go into the last week. Everybody's got a shot to win it. I don't think we've had that yet in the Pick Six. Larry, you're only 3 games behind the leader, which is Todd at 48 and 49 after a 4-2 week. Got you right back in it. Wayne, the one game you got kept you in it at 48 and 49. You went 1-5 last week. Todd 4-2 at 51 and 46 overall, and I went 4-2 last week. And I am sitting one game ahead of you two, and 2 behind Todd at 4-2 last week. I'm at 49 and 48. So there's our standings. Larry, your final thought, man.
My Miami Hurricanes were not able to get it done against the Indiana Hoosiers. However, Carson Beck leaves, and guess who's coming back to town? Darren Mensah, the quarterback formerly of your Duke Blue Devils, has committed through the transfer portal to the Miami Hurricanes. Not only that, but he brought his top target wide receiver along with him. Not only that, but they continue to add and drop dimes, all in Coral Gables, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe it or not, the Miami Hurricanes are back where they belong. Yes, they will finish tops in the ACC next year, and you better believe you're going to have to deal with the swag that comes with dealing with the orange and green, which means you'll probably see Michael Irvin with more belts to more jerseys next season.
I love it. Wayne, your final thought, man.
Well, my final thought is whoever left the air conditioner on outside, go and turn that off, because we've had enough cold.
I love it. This wasn't baseball. Once they start throwing baseballs, God starts heating up the atmosphere. I promise.
I hope so.
Guys, my final thought is this. How good is this UGA men's basketball team? They're neither top of the country in scoring over 93 points per game. At second in the country. They lead the country in block shots per game, 7+. Cyril averages like 6 a game. It's unbelievable. He sends 5 or 6 back a game like that. It's a change of possession, but they're a good rebounding team, top 20 with 41+ a game in that category. But man, they put it up on bad teams and they struggle versus good ones. They're playing Rick Barnes and his Tennessee Volunteers as we speak right now in overtime. And well, they got a shot. That'll do it. They're going to lose by 1 point, it looks like, 86-85, as I just finished out that statement. But yeah, they run it up on some bad teams, quad 4 teams, the worst teams in the country, and they're 3-4 versus quad 1 teams as they drop this one to Tennessee and Rick Barnes. But look, this team can score with the best of them, as I mentioned. They can keep pace. But the problem is if they have a 3 or 4 minute drought, that's it. They're not going to win that game. They got to find a way to get those droughts. They got to keep the nets moving. And maybe they're able to break the NCAA tournament streak, because technically now, since they did vacate the 2002 win, the Georgia Bulldogs have not won a tournament game since 1996, because, again, they did take away that 2002 victory. So here we are sitting, and top scoring offense, top shot blocking team in the country. And I don't know how well this team is doing. The SEC is a little bit down in basketball this year, but look, I think this team can do it. It's going to be dependent on where they fall in the bracket, but I am just expecting one measly win to break that streak for them Georgia Bulldogs. Guys, that wraps it up for Wayne in Memphis, Larry in Adairsville, Todd in Woodstock, who was out calling the Clayton State Lakers game this evening. I'm JJ right here in Lilburn, Georgia. If you like the content, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that like button, and give us a review on Apple or Spotify. And again, at ATL Prime Sports across the board. We'll see you next week. It'll be Super Bowl Pick 6 week, and I cannot wait. Super Bowl 60 next. We'll see you next week, guys. ATL Prime Sports. Get you one.